Hey everybody, welcome to the last statewide meeting of the year. Kind of hard to believe that we're already wrapping up the regular football season for high school. So it's October 30th. There will not be another meeting after this. And just some housekeeping items that we have to kind of go through every time because we get questions after every meeting. You're all muted upon entry. If you have any questions or want to throw something out there for the panelists tonight, please do put it in the chat window. Somebody will be monitoring the chat window at all times. I don't see anybody that has their video on at the moment, but if it does pop on, just make sure you turn it off. Participants should not have their video on, panelists should. And then the area directors will get an attendee list about 24 hours after the meeting ends. If you are a call-in user, all we record is your phone number. So if you're just a dial-in, we don't capture your name or anything like that. So attendance for your local area is up to you to follow up on that. I know the ADs can't go look up every phone number. So if you're not logged in or your name is not displayed, please make sure you follow up with your AD to get any kind of meeting credit for your local association. And then lastly, I will post a transcript of this meeting and the video on the DFOA site. So if you missed something or you want to make sure somebody sees something this evening, go to the denverfootballofficials.com, and then under the calendar section, all these meeting replays are right at the top. So with that said, I will turn it over to Mr. Matt Miller, who's going to be leading us tonight. We're going to then be going to George, some film review from Kirk. I'll be covering 7-man mechanics for the postseason, and John should be with us for any Q&A there at the end. So without further ado, Matt, it's all yours.
All right, thanks, Joel. Thanks, everybody, for joining us again for our last meeting. Playoffs are right upon us, right around the corner. So make sure you keep your phones on and emails open, schedules open. I will be calling shortly. With that said, I'll turn it over to George for some unsportsmanlike conduct.
All right, George, I've got your Word document up.
Okay, it's kind of small. There we go.
There we go.
Okay, guys, thanks for joining us tonight. Just wanted to cover 2 points on stuff that's come up recently. One is unsportsmanlike conduct, and the other one's a personal foul on body slams. So on sportsmanlike, what we're emphasizing is that anything which illustrates or implies bodily harm is an unsportsmanlike conduct foul. And the new gesture that's going around the teenage world is called the strap up gesture. And that's where they lift their shirt to show an imaginary gun in their waistband. I personally have not seen it, but I am going to show you a video of it. It's very subtle, and if you're not on the lookout for it, you probably have no idea what it means. I certainly didn't when I heard about it, but that's where we're at on that. Now, anything with knives, including the throat slash, of course, is bodily harm or a bow and arrow. So all of those would be unsportsmanlike conduct. So let's just go to the video on the strap up gesture.
All right, give me just 1 second to get it up there, George, and play it. All right. Here we go.
I ain't finna go back and forth with these niggas. I'm trying to go catch me a top. Young niggas crash to hear that good start spazzing. I ain't even know you was shot. I already knew you was hit.
Let me play it one more time.
Yeah, as you can see, it's very, very subtle. And if you don't really know what he's trying to send a message on, it may appear like he just has an itch on his shirt, on his chest, and he's just pulling his shirt up. So that's the strap up gesture. And because that involves a gun, we would like that flagged. I'm not sure what state this video is from, but obviously the back judge couldn't see it because the player's back was to him. But that's it. That's the latest flag in taunting. So if we can go back to my Word document. The only other unsportsmanlike conduct foul that I want to cover is spiking the ball. And if it's a celebration, you all know what a spike is. So that is a unsportsmanlike conduct foul. If it's like a quarterback sack and the player slams the ball to the ground, that is not taunting. That fits the letter of the rule because he spiked the ball, but that's not the spirit of the rule. So if he does it in frustration, you can either ignore it or you can call it a 5-yard delay of game penalty for him throwing the ball away. And the same thing if he discards the ball away from the officials, that could also be a delay penalty. So the main message there that we want to get across is that a non-grandeur spike out of frustration is not taunting, and that's not intended to be an unsportsmanlike conduct foul. Okay, the last topic I want to cover is body slams, and some of this has appeared in the bulletins the last few weeks. If a defender picks up a runner and lifts him off the ground, we're probably going to have a foul. Simply picking up the runner is not a foul, but now that defender has bought the farm and he is now responsible for the safety of the runner. So he's got to put him down in a safe manner, which is very, very hard to do. Okay. And I've got 2 videos, one that was called and one that was not called. And we'll show them momentarily. But I also want to discuss the suplex move, which is a wrestling maneuver. Those of you that are wrestling officials, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And the suplex move is picking up the runner and flipping them somewhat backwards over the top of your head. So if we have that type of suplex move where there's 2 efforts to raise, the first one picking the runner off the ground, and the second one is lifting them even higher, that almost certainly is going to be a disqualification. So let's take a look at the videos. The first one, show the move 7892.
Can you show you the one that was called? I have that one up first. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
all right.
All right. Give me a second. Here we go.
So we can see the referee's flag came out somewhat quickly, and the line judge also had a flag. That clearly is a foul. He picks him up and plants him into the ground on his butt.
All right, is that one good? Next clip, George?
That's good. Let's do the last clip.
Give me a second just to load it.
Now, this one happened in a sub-varsity game. It's happens right between the referee and the line judge. Either one of them could have called it, and neither one chose to do so. Okay, so that is a near suplex because he flipped him upside down. It's not that violent. So it could have been a disqualification, but as a minimum, that should have been a foul. You'll note, and Joel will play it one last time, that when he flips him over, the first thing that the runner touches the ground with is his head. So that runs the risk of cramming his head down his neck, and that type of move has a possibility of causing paralysis. So that's a very dangerous play, and our message is we need you guys to call all these body slams whenever you see them. So that's everything that I have. I'm going to turn it over to Kirk, who's going to show 4 clips on 4 other topics. Kirk, it's all yours.
Very good. Thank you, George. That suplex, you say that like you've been watching a lot of All-Star Wrestling. I didn't know you were an All-Star Wrestling fan. All right. Good evening, all. All right. Joel's going to run this film for me, which I'm not used to. Most of you all know me to control my own film. So, Joel, go ahead and make that full screen. And
Is that good?
I'm going to have, all right, very good. Thank you. I'm going to have you stop it. Let me describe what we're looking at. I've got 4 scenarios that I want to talk about tonight. I've got about 15 minutes of this meeting that I want to focus on 4 pieces of information. And so this first one is going to be a field goal attempt. And we're going to see a blocked, no, this is a fire play where the holder is going to pick it up and we're going to run it to the pylon on the near side. So what I want to focus on is mechanics. And before we start the play, a lot of times we think as, in this case, the line judge who's not under the post, that we don't have a lot to do. We're just we're gonna watch the line of scrimmage, make sure there's not an encroachment or a false start, and then we really don't have a lot to do other than charge in. And again, in this case, it's a field goal, so we don't want to whistle. Once the ball is past the goal line, we can come charging in and make sure that no players are doing some obnoxious behavior. However, I think it's important to think on field goals, and this goes to every position. Let's just not think of the things that routinely happen on a field goal. Let's take it to another level. Even the guys under the post. Think about the things, not the routine things that are easy for us to do, but think about the stuff that might happen that we need to elevate our game to make sure we get it right. So I see officials in the place that we want them here. In this case, as a line judge, or let's call it the official that's still at the line of scrimmage, what all possibly could happen that could challenge us as a crew. And the back judge, if we have something other than a kick that goes through the post, what are your responsibilities? The mechanics manual talks about, let's identify what eligible receivers are there. Well, let's not stop there. What are you going to do on a fire play that might go your direction? And so go ahead and play it, Joel. We've got a wing official that's on about the 11-yard line. Is there any reason why this back judge cannot get to the goal line like a normal scrimmage play? Signaling from the end line is probably not acceptable. We would like you to think of yourself as a back judge. So here you've got a fire play. Back judge, why not come into the field of play once this is a run play and you know it's not a pass? Once he crosses that line of scrimmage, it's not a pass. Let's get close to the goal line. Think about all the things that could possibly happen. And in this case, we typically say, wings, be aware that the goal line is exposed in this case. So it might take both of you to make sure that we have a touchdown. And so in this case, I think our wing official is maybe a little flat-footed, which I think is understandable. We're not thinking, what if this play turns into a run? So back to the message here is, We know that the far wing is going to move down to the pylon in case of a fire play for a pass. Back judge, go ahead and move into the field of play and treat it like you're a normal back judge, snapping it from inside the or outside the 10. Let's treat it like that goal line is a money line. When you recognize it's no longer a pass, get to the goal line or as close as you can. Wing official, try to rule pylon and as much information as you can. Because if this gets tackled at the 1 inch line, we've got complete exposure. We don't know whether he scored or not. So my message here, the takeaway is, don't just think about the routine stuff when you're preparing for a field goal. Pre-snap all of the crazy stuff that could happen. All right, that's what makes great playoff officials. All right, next play, Joel. And this is also going to be a punt play.
So there's 1 second left, and they're on the
Joel, do me a
32
favor and turn off
yard
the
line.
audio for me.
Well, this should be the final play together.
Should have given you. And as you hear in the audio, this is the final play of the game, but I kind of want to ignore. Go ahead and make that full screen. Ignore the fact that this is final play of the game. That just adds another level of chaos to this.
I'm not the huddle expert that you are. How do you turn off the audio for just this clip?
Go down to that little cog right next to the full screen little cog thing, and then
there you go. All right.
Yep. And turn off your roast is done message. All right, here we go. All right, so we're going to have, all right, go ahead and stop it. I'm going to describe what you're going to look at. You're going to see a blocked kick, and this is something that I've started talking about, that again, we have one official on the line of scrimmage, and that official is extremely important in 1% of the plays that we deal with, maybe 5% of the plays we deal with. The rest of them, you kind of feel like, I really don't have anything to do other than rule on false starts and encroachment. You have got to be the expert on that line of scrimmage. And so in this case, we're going to watch that wing official move downfield a couple yards, when in reality, he has to know, he's the only one that can know whether this ball is picked up behind the line of scrimmage by K or beyond, because this kick is going to get blocked. My point is, stay home and rule on the line of scrimmage at the end of this play. Now we're kicking it from the 30, 31, 32 yard line. So you've got a long ways to the goal. By the time that runner, if this is a fire play, gets to the goal line, I would hope our back judge can come 10 yards out of the end line and rule on the goal line. So in this case, let's watch that wing official. This happens to be the last play of the game. It's the winning field goal. Let's watch what happens. Go ahead, Joel. See the ball swirling around right at the line of scrimmage. It's picked up and headed to the end zone by the kicking team. All right, go ahead and play that again. The end of this, we've just got a whole bunch of chaos. We've got the receiving team on the field along with all their other counterparts celebrating the win. And we've got, as we talk about, we've got a live ball, and this ball will be picked up at the line of scrimmage near the head linesman. And in this case, fortunately, it's near the head linesman. He could have been standing right there looking at where this ball gets picked up. It would be different if it was on the other sideline. It's even harder. But my message here, all right, one more time, Joel. My message here is, wing official that remains on the line of scrimmage, don't think that you got just a brainless job. It's one of the most important jobs on the field in a situation like this. We have to know where that ball is picked up. And if it's picked up behind the line of scrimmage, K can advance it. If it's picked up beyond the line of scrimmage, it's dead. It's first touching. They can't advance it beyond. Well, that ball is laying beyond the line of scrimmage by about 5 inches. And now we've got to know where it was picked up, because it should be dead and the play's over. All right, next play. All right, we're going to talk about goal line mechanics here. And this I'm sharing this play with you because we've got a void in our 5-man mechanics. With 7-man mechanics that Joel's going to talk about later, we'll have a little better coverage on this. So what I'm going to describe here is you're going to see we've got back judge has the goal line. We're snapping it outside the 10-yard line. I want to say it's about the 11 and a half. Back judge has a threat to the end line, and you'll see him move towards the end line because he's the only one that's got the end line. And we are going to have a pass to that pylon, and the receiver is going to stick that ball out, and we have a void in our mechanic. And I'm sharing this with you just to prepare for the worst case scenario. So go ahead and play this. And we don't have anybody at that goal line to rule right down that goal line to see if this ball was reached out across the goal line. Now, fortunately, in this case, it is 1st and 10 from the 6-yard line. And I can't say that this wing official was right or wrong, but he sells it. He comes in strong, which is what we look for. But this is tough. And so we've just got to show confidence. Nobody else gives a rat's about whether we were in position. They think this is a score. If you're the white team, the red team thinks, no, he didn't get there. We come in, we sell it. My point is we've got to prepare, and I'm talking about officiating mechanics 301, 401, 501. Let's think about all of the scenarios. In this case, if it was a perfect scenario, the back judge would be lightning fast and move to the goal line once he realized that the end line was no longer threatened. But obviously we don't have that kind of lightning speed as back judges. So again, I share these with you to think outside the box. All right, next play. And I'm guessing I'm running over my time. No, we don't need any of the other views. There actually is a drone view that shows that we got this right, but it's not critical at this. I just want to talk about mechanics. All right, now we're going to talk about you hear us talk routinely about whose goal line is it. And in this case, we have a catch in the end zone at the sideline. And so wings, the sideline is yours all the way to that end zone pylon at the end line. If a catch or if a pass is caught near the sideline in the end zone, it's your signal. You're the one that's going to rule on it. You have sideline responsibility. So in this case, you're going to see the wing official punch it in. It's okay, but it's not technically what we're looking for. Wing officials come down, look at that catch, make sure he caught the ball, possessed it all the way out of bounds, maintain control, stop about the 2-yard line. I think in this message I have 5-yard line, but go ahead and stop and give a smooth signal after you've confirmed that the catch is in the end zone and he maintained possession. So go ahead and play it. And so my message is we're not punching this in. Wings, the sideline in the end zone is yours. And so I would want this wing official not to punch this in right there, but just to stop, plant his feet, watch what's going on, give a slow, comfortable signal instead of the back judge signaling touchdown. Not that it's a fail that the back judge did, but the back judge does not have knowledge of the sideline. That's why the goal line is yours. I'm sorry, the signal is yours when the catch is in the end zone, possessed before he went out of bounds. Stop and signal touchdown if you're a wing. All right, that's my takeaway message here. Even though the goal line is the back judge's, the sideline is yours, wings. All right, next play. I've kind of forgotten what this play is, but it's probably also a goal line mechanic. Let's go ahead and run this so I can remember what I've got on my, oh, no, I'm sorry. Back it up, Joel. All right, I got 2 plays here I want to showcase. And they're kind of confusing. This happens to be a punt play, and we're going to have a toss forward and then a pass. And so I'm giving you this high alert And sometimes this flag needs to come late as the officials come together and go, wait a second, was that 2 forward passes? And there's nothing wrong with that flag because this kind of stuff can catch us off guard. So go ahead and play it. You're going to have a toss from the punter forward. Creative coach says, yeah, this will be a great play. Turns out, oh, yeah, one more time. This is because there were 2 forward passes on the play. So again, this might catch you by surprise unless the coach pre-games it, and then you go, coach, make sure that the first pass is backwards. And he's going to go, oh yeah, that's right. So we've got an illegal forward pass. Comment, I see the comment, loss of down. Great comment. Come together as a crew and say, what the heck was that? We've got a flag. Let's try to get that penalty assessed. All right, one more double forward pass, and then I'll be done. Go ahead, Joel. This is maybe more typical. We're going to have a block forward pass caught by the quarterback, and he panics and throws it downfield to a eligible receiver. Another illegal forward pass. So again, white hats, think about if you've got a pass that gets deflected and the quarterback catches it, he might panic and think he can throw it downfield as another pass, and that is illegal. That second pass cannot be legal. First one is, second one isn't. All right. I think that was my last play. Is that right, Joel? Yep. All good. Thank you.
Thanks, Kirk. All right. I have the pleasure of presenting 7-man mechanics tonight. So as we get into the postseason, it's time to talk about 7-man games. So it's my understanding we've been doing, 5A games have been 7-man mechanics for the last couple of years. This year, we're going to be doing them in 4A as well, and with some future hopes of even expanding them into the lower levels in future years. So even though we don't get a chance to practice 7-man mechanics during the regular season, there is a published mechanics manual. It's only in the PDF format. It's not in the regular mechanics manual. If anybody needs that, it is online on the DFOA website. But I'm going to go through tonight and just highlight some of the major items for the 7-man mechanics. And Kirk, if you wouldn't mind just monitoring the chat window, let me know if something comes up. It's just hard to see with in presentation mode and actually running the presentation. All right, so why are we doing 7-man mechanics in the postseason? Well, there's 2 primary reasons. Number one, it gives more officials an opportunity to work a championship level game. And then number 2, these are the most critical games of the year. So we want to make sure we have all the eyes on the field and give the kids in the sport the best officiating that we can. So with not a lot of games going on, there's more officials available and we have the opportunity to put 7 people on the field. And you see a lot of 7-man or more, right, when you get to the NCAA and the NFL level. So more eyes on the field does not necessarily mean more fouls. So keep that in mind too. A couple just personal thoughts. So I've had the privilege, I guess, to work the deep wing spots for some years of my career here. I really, really like the deep wing position. It's just where I feel very comfortable. I like the position. And I actually had an official tell me, in one of the postseason games, they were bored standing back there. And so if you feel like that, if you feel like you're bored when you're working as one of the deep wings, then I would challenge you and say, I don't think you're working the position right, because there is something for a deep wing to do on every single play that happens on the field. Doesn't matter if it's a run, if it's a pass, inbounds, out of bounds. The way it was taught to me is that the short wings, the H and the L, are working the game. The deep wings help manage the game. And that's just something that me personally, I like. I like the game management aspect of it. A little note for referees, when you do your postseason game confirmations and you have a 7-man crew, make sure that you are getting a facility that can handle 7 officials to dress. So I don't know, we don't know who's going to be where in the playoffs yet or anything like that, but just think about game confirmations, having more officials that you're going to have to accommodate in a room, longer pregame time, and also recognize the fact we've got more females in the association now. And so just make sure that we have an alternate facility if you do have a female on the crew. So just food for thought, getting ready for larger crews on the games. As I said a minute ago, 7 officials doesn't mean there should be more flags. So don't feel like we've got to have more flags in the game just because there's more of us on the field. It really means there's more eyes on the field, and there should be less when in doubt plays. Like I work a lot of back judge during the regular season. One of the plays I have a hard time with is passes that are over the middle and a receiver is going down to the ground to catch the ball. The receiver's back is towards me. I don't have a good angle to say, was that caught or was that not caught or was it trapped? And a lot of times the wings can't help out. In those kinds of plays, for example, with more eyes on the field and a different angle, having a field judge and a side judge, it allows us to have less when in doubt and make efficient and credible rulings on the field. Coverage for weak areas during the plays. So I know Kirk just mentioned we have a hole in our mechanics sometimes, and it's just because we have just 5 guys on the field. We can fill in some of those holes. Help with RPO style offenses, and especially better DBO and game management. Deep wings, if you're fortunate enough to work an S or an F position in the postseason, you should be getting up there and helping out your short wings on plays that go out of bounds. The back judge and the referee should not be coming over to the sidelines as much because you've got help over there as well. So keep that in mind. And again, something for you to do on every single play. Keep in mind, too, that the 7-person mechanics manual for CFOA is different than what you may have worked in the NCAA. So anybody that was up at the college level and maybe has come back to work high school, or if you've done 7-man mechanics in some of the summer leagues that go on around Denver, it is what we've developed is different. And as much as possible, we've tried to retain the 5-person mechanics so everybody is not working a new position on the field, meaning that on kickoffs, especially, the back judge is always going to have K still, and the L is always going to have R. We didn't want to reposition the 5 people that are normal, working those normal 5-position crews. So the deep wings are going to fill in, and I will show you here an illustration where they're going to fill in. But just keep in mind, if you're used to working NCAA mechanics or watching TV on Sunday in the NFL mechanics, they are slightly different. Pre-game duties. So the side judge, make sure that you're accompanying the back judge, and you should meet with the clock operator. In a 7-person crew, the side judge is going to have primary game clock responsibilities, meaning you should be keeping an eye on the game clock. Was it stopped when it should be? Was it started when it should be? And if there is any kind of clock issue during the game, the side judge is going to be responsible for taking over that game clock. Okay, so make sure that you know your clock rules and when it should be started and stopped. Pre-game, the field judge is going to be in this buffer zone area. So between the 45s, I like to say that they patrol the middle of the field. So keep in mind, we've got, a championship or a playoff level game where one of these teams is going home at the end of the game. Emotions are bound to be high. You want to make sure that you're in the middle of the field and keeping everybody separated and on their side of the field in pregame. No name calling, no flexing or anything like that going on before the game. The other thing that the side judge and the field judge should be doing is jointly meeting with the ball persons that are out there. We really would like to see two ball persons helping out and doing 2-ball mechanics, but if only one's available for whatever reason, that ball person should stay near the H and the L. If there are 2 ball persons available, have one up by the H and the L and one in between the H and L and the deep wing. So that way the deep wing can help get balls in and help with those ball mechanics so we're not waiting on balls to get back out on the field. In pregame, make sure you're letting your coaches know that we've got 7 people on the field. And again, your deep wing should be helping you manage the game. So let the coaches know that they should be communicating with the deep wings. Make sure the side judge and the field judge are going over to introduce themselves to the coach that is on their sideline, for either timeouts or any issues or any questions. Let the short wings work the game. Let the deep wings help manage the game and manage that communication for you. I'll pause there for just a second. Kirk, anything coming up in the chat window or any comments you possibly wanted to add here?
Nope, I've got nothing in there. I don't see anything in the chat that's not being addressed. So we're good.
Right. Awesome. All right, so for the coin toss, again, trying to keep the 5-person mechanics as intact as possible. The S and the F, you're going to stay on the sideline. What I do if I'm working that position is I just grab a kicking ball just in case my team is going to kick. I'll have it in my hand and ready to go. If not, I just toss it back. But it just, again, shows the preparedness, keeps you involved in the game. Get a kicking ball from your team, and if your team's kick, you can run it out there right away. Free kick coverage. So I just mentioned a minute ago, deep wings, you're going to fill in on the K or the R line, not already covered by an official. So the side judge is always going to be on the side with the linesman or the H. The F is always going to be on the side with the line judge. And so for free kicks, for example, the field judge is going to fill in on the line judge side. The side judge is going to fill in on the back judge side. So we've got 2 people watching the K line. Now we've got 2 people watching the R line as well. What about for scrimmage plays? How are we being positioned? So if we're outside the 25-yard line, the field judge and side judge, the deep wings are going to be about 22 yards off the ball. The back judge should be 25 yards off the ball. So basically the deep wings are going to be just in front of, a few yards in front of the back judge. And then I'm not going to read the chart to you, but you can kind of see, and I'll post this, this presentation, by the way, on the website. So if anybody wants to have it, they can have it afterward. But outside the 25, you're 22 yards off the ball. Between the 7 and the 25, where do you have responsibility? Inside the 7, where do you go? So the deeps are going to transition back to the end line once the line of scrimmage becomes the 7-yard line and in. You should be communicating that as well. The side judge and the field judge should very rarely, and I hate to say never, but should be very rarely taking the spot of a ball, even if it's a deep play, deep pass play, a long run play. Make sure you're helping your short wing and maybe call out to them, hey, play ends at the 15. At the 15, let the short wing take the spot. The deeps should not be taking the spot unless the play ends inside the 2-yard line. So between the 2-yard line and the goal line, the deeps can go ahead and spot the ball. Make sure you're killing the clock if it's a first down, putting your hand up if it's not a first down, just like if you were a wing. But rarely ever should the deep wing be taking the spot of the ball. Make sure that you're communicating on the field. So again, communicating with your short wing. Short wings are not going to be used to having that help. Remember, a lot of the stuff that we do in a 5-man mechanic at this point in the season is a lot of muscle memory. It's stuff that we're used to be, getting done by habit. And so the short wings are probably going to tend to forget that you're back there and you're there to help them out. So short wings, just remember, if you're working the H or the L spot, you don't have to break down field to cover a pass play when you repass. You've got help down there now. And I know a lot of times we forget that, especially in the the heat of the moment, heat of the game. Oh yeah, I'm running downfield. Well, I got a side judge or a field judge down there. So make sure you're communicating constantly. When I work the position, I'm telling the short wing on that side, hey, I'll meet you at the 2 if that's where I need to be looking at, or I'm at the 25. So he knows that I'm there on every single down. We're having that level of communication on almost every single play. Let's see, deeps. So just a mechanogram to kind of show you what we were talking about. The deeps are always going to have the widest eligible receiver. And just like if you're normally working a back judge, just know that strength changes with motion. And so you may, who starts as your key may not end as your key when the snap happens. So remember, when motion changes strength, motion can also change who your key is on that particular play. Again, when I'm working these deep wing spots, I will look at my key. I also look for press coverage. If my key is not pressed, then I will peek in at the next eligible receiver, kind of keep, one eye on my key and then kind of peeking in at maybe the slot receiver on my side if I've got one, possibly the tackle. So it all depends upon how my widest guy, my widest eligible receiver on my side is being covered. H and L, keep in mind, depending on the formation, it's possible with a 7-man mechanic, you may not have a key at the snap. So just think about, if you've got a running back in there, if you have trips on one side and, everybody else is covered by the back judge or one of the deep wings, you may not actually have a key on your side. So don't feel like you have to find somebody. If the formation doesn't kind of scream to you, this is my guy, or this is who I'm watching. Don't go find somebody that, you shouldn't be watching. All right, so I'll pause there. Kirk, anything to add? Or I'm seeing some questions come in, but I can't read them because they're blinking off my screen fast. So I didn't know if there was anything we needed to chat about.
Again, Joel, you must be doing a great job. I don't see, let's see, there does 7 official change goal line mechanics coming out? I think the answer is no.
No, it does not. The one that I saw pop up there real quick from Deborah is if radios are going to be used in the playoffs. I would say it depends upon your crew and the R for the crew. I encourage them. Personally, I think the radios are beneficial in playoff games and then for just efficiency. And then when you've got more officials on the field, especially if, the deeps with potentially more passing and deeper passes in a playoff game, because you've got higher caliber players and higher caliber games, you don't want to be running all the way down to the R to communicate a potential foul. So if you're asking me, Joel's opinion is radios are good in playoffs, competitive games like this with more officials, but that is up to the R if they want to use the radios and if the radios are available.
Yeah, and it's important to know that less commotion inside those radios with 7 voices is even more important. So unnecessary information is critical when you add 2 more voices in that radio system. I do see a question, which is, I'm guessing Mike Kelly knows this, but his question is there an anticipated onside kick movement? What do we do on an onside kick with 7-man mechanic?
So the officials, let me go back a couple screens here. So because we have coverage on both the K line and the R line, there is no reason for everybody else to move up. I have seen in other associations at the high school level that will move the L and the U up. I don't know if we specifically addressed that in the mechanics manual. I can't remember, to be quite honest with you. As I was writing our mechanics manual, I went and looked at several different associations, especially Texas, that uses 7-man at the high school level. And some of them do bump them up, some of them don't. I can't remember which way we went. Kirk, do you remember off the top of your head?
No, I don't, but I do not see value in changing that formation. We've got the box covered. We got everybody where we need to be. I think we should remain exactly where we are.
All right. All right, so the question I get a lot is sideline catches. Who's ruling on what? And again, for the deep wings, you should be lined up at the back of the white on the field. So you've got a better angle. You've got that wider width to look at. But in this sideline catch, whoever has their back toward the receiver is going to have feet. Whoever is looking at the chest of the receiver is going to have ball. So make sure that both of you guys on the sideline, if you're F or S or L or H, make sure you kind of keep that in your head. If I've got the chest, if I'm looking at the front of the receiver, I've got the ball. If I'm looking at the back of the receiver, I've got a rule on his feet. And then it's okay to come together after the catch is made. Done that and seen that several times, and you see it on TV on Saturday and Sunday, where after the guy goes to the ground, if he catches the ball and retains possession, they'll come together and they'll say, feet in, yep, feet in, ball possessed, yep, ball possessed, and they'll make a ruling right there. So don't feel like you have to, signal without having a discussion first. And kind of like we talk about with having 2 flags on the field at the wings, one guy has encroachment on the defense, one guy has a false start. You want to make sure you have that communication before you give a signal, because especially if you have a different opinion, maybe his feet weren't in and the short wing is already signaling catch, that looks just as bad as when you've got that false start on one side and the encroachment signal on the other. So before you make a ruling on a critical play like this, make sure you're coming together and having that discussion, or having at least eyes meet and nodding the head, yes, 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 or shaking the head, no, no, no. Okay. Reverse mechanics. So this is probably one of the things that we have the most difficulty with at the high school level, and just doing this in playoffs. And I stress this, I put it in red, and I've even mentioned it a couple other times later on in the presentation here. It just looks bad when we get this wrong. So with reverse mechanics, if there is a fumble that's going the other way, an interception that goes the other way, you're trading spots essentially with your short wing. So an S is going to become the H, the F is going to become the L. And that's when you should be spotting the ball. So you need to get up there and you need to be in charge of progress at that point and marking where the player is down, because now the short wings have now transitioned to the deep wing position. They've got to get to the goal line. And when we don't do this well, what I've seen a lot in the games that I've went and watched is we get officials bumping into each other on the sideline because the H or the L forgets to go downfield. The S is coming upfield. It just looks horrible when we have a play that ends and we bump into each other or we're both standing at the same spot on the sideline. So if you're going to take anything away from tonight, and I've got a slide at the end with like the most common issues that we see in the 7-man mechanics. That is going to be one of the number one issues is remember your reverse mechanics. Remember H and L, you've got to bust down to the goal line because you become the F and the S. And then the deeps, you come up and get the spot. Okay. Where else can the deeps help, by the way? So on scrimmage plays, substitutions, so help the back judge, help look for, did the player get off the field? Potential OPI. We're seeing, with these RPOs and, was there pass interference downfield potentially by the offense? We're looking for ineligibles downfield on these RPOs. So OPI is another thing that we can help monitor and watch out for. And then again, deeps, if you have information to offer, you're another set of eyes on the field, get up there and offer it up. Maybe you didn't have the flag down on the field, but maybe you saw something. Maybe you had an angle that we normally don't get in the 5-person mechanics. You should be coming up and offering information when you have it. Kirk, I just see the chat window going crazy, so I just can't tell what's popping through there. Anything to discuss?
Yeah, it may talk a little bit about punt mechanics. Are you going to cover that later?
We're getting there. That's coming up.
No, I think we're good. Keep going.
Okay, so scrimmage kick coverage. All right, this is one of the other top things that we don't get right. So it actually differs what's shown from the manual. We printed the original 7-man mechanics manual, or had it developed in 2021, and it's changed. So this is the mechanogram that is actually in there. It shows the S and the F in front of the back judge. The way this should be is the F and the S should be behind the back judge, should be positioned 5 yards behind the back judge or on the goal line. We never want to take up a position that is on the 5-yard line. The deepest we would want to be is at the 10. So if the back judge is at the 15, we're at the 10. If the back judge is any further in than that, we should just be at the goal line. So one of the keys at the higher level is essentially if the scrimmage kick occurs from the K45 or greater, we should just set up at the goal line. We don't have great kickers a lot of times at the high school level, so they may not be able to kick it that far. Watch your kicker in pregame and see if he's got a leg. See if they can punt that far. If they can, if they're at the K45 and that's the line of scrimmage, maybe you just line up at the goal line. But this is something you should talk about with your crew. You should pregame, and we definitely want the S and the F behind the back judge. So I'll tell you what's happened. I wish I still had the film clip. I couldn't find it for tonight. There were a couple plays in previous years where one particular crew said, I can't see the ball. The deep said, I can't see the ball, so I want to be in front of the back judge. Well, are we supposed to be watching the ball? The answer to that is no. Your responsibilities are for the goal line and the pylons. If there's a coffin corner kick or something like that, it's much easier for you to be in the back and run forward than to have somebody with a leg get into the punt and then kick the ball beyond you. And now you're trying to run backwards to the goal line to rule on something with the goal line, and you're scrambling down there. Now you got players behind you with your back to them. It doesn't look good, and we missed stuff on this particular play. So if your argument is I can't see the ball, you don't need to see the ball. You're supposed to be ruling on your area of the field. The back judge has got a view of the ball. The L or the H potentially have a view of the ball. Let them worry about the ball. You worry about your responsibilities on the goal line, and then come up. Again, I know I can run faster forward than I can backwards. Okay, you want to keep the action in front of you as much as possible. So Kirk, anything in the chat window about scrimmage kicks? I'll take that as a no.
Sorry, Joel, I was muted. So we got a question about gunners on punts, and this is interesting question because I think we have a tradition with 5-man mechanics of giving a pass to the defenders on gunners and throwing them down and holding them, which may or may not frustrate coaches. But talk about how the coverage on gunners and who has those guys at the line of scrimmage?
Yeah. So the deeps, again, are they an eligible receiver? If there's an eligible receiver out there, then that's technically your guy and you should be watching them. So if that's your initial key, then you should stay on them. I don't know if we want to get into calling a hold and what's not a hold, and if they get taken down. Kirk, my thought is if it's some aggressive holding, but they stay upright and don't land on the ground on a scrimmage kick, I'm going to let that go. But if they get taken down in the middle of the field, even if the play goes to the opposite side, I'm almost thinking we got to call that. And sometimes we miss that, right? When in a 5-person mechanic, the back judge has the punt returner, and we may miss those kinds of plays. So I would appreciate your advice on how do you think we should call that. Now we've got more eyes and we got eyes watching those gunners. If they're taking somebody down on the outside, should we be calling that?
Well, let me expose myself. I'm not a wing official. Joel, whose eyes are on the widest official on those gunners looking for that hold call? Is that the short, the line of scrimmage wings, or the deeps? Okay, so the deeps. I think that's the key here. Is deeps. You got your eyes on those gunners and make sure they're not thrown to the ground.
Okay. So the mechanic for scrimmage kicks going out of bounds a little bit different than what we normally do with the 5-person mechanics during the season. So if the ball lands in the green but rolls out of bounds, right? So it hits somewhere in the field of play and then rolls over the sideline. Field judge, side judge, that's your spot. Get up there and mark that ball. If it hits in the white, so if it's out of bounds but it lands in the white, so that zone on the sideline, essentially the coach's box, team box, that area that lands somewhere in that white area, again, that's going to be the field judge, side judge spot. If it's in the air and lands way outside the white, lands on the track or in the stands, that's where we're going to do the traditional raise your hand up and look at your referee and ask for your R to help spot the ball. Now, I know that some crews do this differently, and some R's do this differently. So work on your nonverbal signals before the game. So what I've seen from a lot of R's, Kirk, is, hey, if they've got the spot, they're going to stick their hand way up in the air, big and tall, and then they will chop. If they don't have the spot, they'll raise their hand halfway. That's a signal to the deep down there or to the wing, hey, I need you to sell a spot down there. So those kinds of nonverbal communications you need to discuss in pregame of how you're going to do that. But the deeps are going to have primary responsibility, again, if it lands in the field and play and rolls out, and then it hits in the white or just essentially off the field of play and out of bounds, the side judge, field judge are going to mark that.
Yeah, to repeat what you're saying, those side judge, field judge, they're going to just take it if it lands in the field play and rolls out, and they're going to take it and just be confident in the spot if it's in that white 3 yards off the sideline. And then if it goes wide, you're looking for the white hat. I'd even go as far to say if the white hat's busy or fails to notice that he had a kick out of bounds, come up and sell it, try to take your best shot at it, be confident. The receiving team's going to have 1st and 10, whether it's 5 yards from where it went out of bounds or not. Nobody's going to bitch about it. So just be confident in your spot.
Yeah, and again, if we can put it on a big line, by the way, that's the ideal situation. So sell it. If we can put it somewhere near a big line, put it on a big line, just like we do in the 5-person mechanic. If it's definitely rolls out of bounds at the 1, and they put it on the jumbotron 3 times, and we got to put it at the 1, right? So just make sure that you're selling whatever you're marking.
Hey, Joel, before you leave the punts, and I apologize jumping in here, but one of the holes that we have in 5-man mechanics is when the action of a punt return team and a punt team goes into the bench area. And one of the values of 7-man mechanics is we've got more guys closer to the action. And I think we need to take advantage of that. We need to get in there and clear players out. So I'm just messaging here that take advantage of the fact that we got more bodies to take care of business if it goes into the bench.
I agree wholeheartedly, Kirk. And again, back to what I had on one of the very first slides is DBO and helping out that short wing. So a lot of times in the 5-person mechanic, the back judge or the R is running over to the sideline to help out. That is not as necessary, or they could maybe go over there a little slower because we've got help on the sideline now. And the one thing that I don't like to see is when we get a play that goes out of bounds and somebody working the deep wing is just standing there, right? Get up there. And that's why I say on every single play, there is something to do, whether it's managing the clock, whether it's DBO officiating, whether it's substitution. I mean, there's just something to do every play. And you should not be bored back there is my point. All right, so field goals or tries. The field judge is always going to be under the uprights opposite of the back judge. The side judge is going to act as a second umpire and opposite of the press box, no matter what the strength indication is. So why I put that in there is at the higher levels, at the college level in the NFL game, the side judge comes in and he's on the strong side of the field. We don't care about strength. Again, we want to make it easy. We don't want guys reading strength or motion to change something, or, if somebody changes their formation at the last minute to see the side judge and the umpire be dancing around out there. Make it easy. The side judge is going to be the second umpire and always opposite of the press box. So whichever side is opposite, you're just going to be on that side every single time. Don't worry about strength. But your goal is to be in there, help watch the center, help watch for any, leaping, jumping on a play, anything that, an umpire would normally do, you're in there to help the U on that play. Kirk, anything? All right. All right, so this is the slide I was talking about. We're almost done and we're almost through this. So the most consistent issues, again, I've tried to make a lot of the 7-man games, go out and watch them over the last couple of years since we've been doing this. These are the top 4 things that I see as kind of issues. So most of the people that work the deep wing now are normally an H or an L during the season. And they're used to letting the play go by them in 5-man mechanics, right? You let the play go by you and you kind of trail the play. We don't want to do that in the 7-man mechanics. So if you're a deep wing, you really want to try and stay ahead of the action. The ideal thing is to have the play terminate between you, the deep wing, and the short wing. So that way we both have different angles. We're having the action end between us. We're keeping an eye on everything. Another instinct that I see that happens from the season is that, hey, I'm normally a wing, now I'm a deep wing, and I'm just going to let the play go by me. You don't want to do that. You want to try and keep a cushion. You want to stay ahead of the play, and you want to have the play end between you and your short wing. Now, with that said, I'm 50 some years old. I'm not going to outrun a 18-year-old kid going full bore down the field. So yes, I'm going to get beat to the goal line, even if I've got my cushion. But I'm just saying, as a matter of practice, every single scrimmage down, if play sweeping to your side, you don't want to get beat on every single play. If it's an exceptional play, understandable. Like I said, I'm not the athlete where I'm going to keep up with an 18, 19-year-old kid, but I make every effort I can to try and stay ahead of the play, again, so it ends between me and the short. Counting players. This is another thing I see quite a bit of. So signaling the wrong direction and at the wrong time. And what I mean by the wrong time is it looks a little ridiculous when you've got people signaling at different times. The back judge puts his signal up and then the field judge doesn't see it. And the side judge sticks his arm up and then the back judge turns back to the field judge and your arms are going up and down. It just looks ridiculous. So what we try to coordinate when we work 7-man crews is we say when they break the huddle, right? When the offense breaks the huddle, we're going to signal. Doesn't have to be that, just so you have a consistent time so that everybody signals at the same time. And the back judge has got to remember to look both ways. So again, I normally work B during the 5-man season. It's not a normal habit for me to look to the sidelines to look for a deep wing. If I'm looking to the sidelines, I'm normally looking, for a player count on the defense to signal with the wing that's got the defense. I've just seen habits where the back judges will turn their heads one direction. It's honestly a lot of times to their dominant side. So if they're right-handed, they turn to the right but don't look to the left. So if you're a back judge, remember you got to look both ways and get your counts from both sides. What I mean by signaling the wrong direction is back judges, make sure you get your fist out in front of you with your thumb up because it has to be visible from both sidelines. Deep wings, you want to signal going upfield. So you don't want to have to turn your body. I see a lot of officials that are new to the position. They turn their body and they signal downfield. You don't want to do that. You want to just be at a 45-degree angle on the sideline, signal with your arm out, your thumb up for your player count, and make sure everybody can see it. Make sure your partner on the other side can see it. When all of you guys have your thumb up and you're good on your player count, drop your arm and go back to your pregame mechanic. I'm sorry, your pre-snap mechanic. Reverse mechanics. We've already talked about that, but make sure you know your responsibilities. Make sure you're talking about it pregame, what you're doing on a fumble, what you're going to do on an interception, and then scrimmage kick positions. Again, it's one of the top things I see in the games that I've watched is be 5 yards behind the back judge. If the line of scrimmage is at the K45, just go to the goal line. Again, it's easier to run up than it is to run back. Don't be at the 5-yard line. If you're any deeper than the 10, like so again, if the back judge is at the 15, you can be at the 10, but if he's at the 10, don't go to the 5, just go to the goal line. Okay. And just remember, a lot of the 5-man mechanics and things and philosophies, nothing changes rule-wise or philosophy-wise, right? If we don't know if somebody caught the ball, right, the philosophy is incomplete pass. None of that stuff changes. But hopefully with more eyes on the field, we don't have to worry about that. Kirk, I'll take a breath there. Anything else?
No, I don't see anything in the chat, but I do help reviewing the dress rehearsal games. And Joel, back up one slide, and I'm going to do an emphasis on emphasis that the biggest transition that we see from 5-man mechanics to adding those 2 additional deep officials that we see that takes a dress rehearsal and then into the championship game. And if we can improve this at the dress rehearsal game, it is the first item on Joel's list there, that whole deep wing trailing the play. So if you're a deep wing, stay in front of it. And most of our deep wings are either back judges or wings, and they've got that feeling of that line of scrimmage wing that you want to let the ball go by you and then get the spot or the forward progress spot. That's not your role, except back in that 2-yard line and into the goal. So Joel, I actually think I would like you to go over that one more time and emphasize that role that the deep wing has on plays that are moving downfield and how that buffer is important.
Yeah, so if you're in the deep wing spot, you really should kind of think like a back judge does, right? So at the snap, if we've got receivers coming downfield, we've got a nice cushion back there. We should try and stay 10 yards in front of those deepest receivers. So as receivers are coming downfield, the deep wings and the back judge should also be transitioning downfield. Ideally, you want to keep that 10-yard cushion. So again, when the receivers are coming downfield, play comes downfield, you've got the short wing behind the play now, you've got the back judge and the deep wings in front of the play. And so when the play ends, ideally, it should end between both sets of officials, right? That is the ideal, best case scenario, and that should happen 95% of the time. But Kirk, like I said, not as fast as I used to be, okay? And if I've got a kid doing a 90-yard run from goal line to goal line, I'm going to keep my cushion, but I guarantee you he's going to pass me up somewhere along the way. Totally get that, right? And so just make sure if you can, try and keep as much of that buffer, that 10-yard buffer as you can, and you want to make every effort as a short and a deep to have the play end between you. All right, we've kind of covered all this stuff. I won't go through and read this to you, but again, I've said it a couple times: reverse mechanics, reverse mechanics, reverse mechanics. I just can't tell you how bad it looks when you got 2 guys bumping into each other on the sideline. So we just want to avoid that. We've already talked about back judge looking both ways. Deeps, by the way, if you have a substitution substitution foul, it looks really, really good if you have 3 flags on that. So that should be 3 flags. You got 12 players on the field, and way you should be counting, right? So the way we kind of normally do it is if you've got 12, the signal is the twirling finger up in the air, right? So you twirl that, recount. If you've got 12 again, then you should have 3 flags down for the substitution. That looks great. And it's when you just got 1 flag down for it, it looks a little weak. So if on any substitution fouls, you really, really want to get 3 flags down. So back judge and both deeps should be doing that. We've already talked about make sure you're going to discuss pregame when you're going to do your signal. Side judge, field judge, position yourself at the back of the white, be 45 degrees to the field. Signal counts with your upfield arm. And so umpires, remember to be looking out for the deep wings to help with ball mechanics. So if we have two ball boys or ball persons and there's somebody between the deep and the short, make sure that you're kind of keeping an eye for the deep to come in with the ball. So again, something that we're not used to in a 5-man mechanic, but know that a deep could be running in there to help out with ball mechanics. All right, best practices. I think this is the last slide I've got, but accordion in and out with a short wing on every play. So deeps, when your shorts come in and they come into the numbers, or I'm sorry, come into the hash marks or wherever they're coming into, you want to accordion in with them and you want to back out with them. Make sure that you're communicating with your coaches and helping with ball mechanics. We've already said this a couple of times. Play should end between you. Be there to DBO. Things that you shouldn't do. Don't take the spot unless it's at the 2-yard line. Between the 2 and the goal line, that is your spot as a deep. You can help out with the spot on long plays. So again, I may be killing the clock. I will be standing off of the sideline. And if I'm talking, if Kirk's my short wing, I'll be saying, Kirk, we're at the 15, Kirk, we're at the 15. I will stand there till he gets there. He will come up, spot that ball. I will leave and head back down to my position 22 yards from that line of scrimmage. Okay. Don't trail the play, keep the play in front of you. Deeps don't give preliminary signals. So another thing that I've seen a couple times in the 7-man games, I don't know if it's like because we see it on TV or because we don't want to run that far back to the R and tell them what's going on. But if you got pass interference, use your radio or run in. Don't signal it, because we're not supposed to signal in 5-man mechanic. So we shouldn't be signaling, pass interference like we see them do on Saturday and Sunday. All right, so questions and discussion. That's the end of the presentation. And Kirk, anything in the chat window? I know Mr. Conklin's out there. He wants me to unmute him. I will take care of that right now.
I will say, Joel, excellent, quick summary of 7-man mechanics. I know there's a lot more to it. There was a comment about measurements. Can you talk a little bit about any changes to measurement?
Yeah, so there is no change for a measurement. It's going to be the 5-man mechanic. So everybody still has their role and responsibility that's in a 5-man mechanic. The S and the F, your job is to keep the coaches and the players away from everything that's going on. So again, in a playoff game and or a championship game, going to be televised or going to be a lot of press coverage there. Get those players back, let everybody else do their job, do the measurement so the press box can see it, so the TV camera can see it. In a 5-man mechanic, everybody wants to get their nose in and help us rule whether it's a first down or not. Get them out of there. So your job as the S and the F is to move those players back and make sure everybody can see and stay out of the way of the chains in the ball.
Well, I see, Joel, that this meeting went from really a good-looking crew to an ugly crew by the addition of our president-elect, John Conklin. He's online now.
Hey, Joel, thanks a lot for that. Just a clarification. Number one, unlike college, we bring the ball in through the line of scrimmage wings and out through the deep wings. So incomplete pass downfield. We have, the back judge may toss it to the deep wing, who can toss it to the ball boy on that side. But the umpire should look to the line of scrimmage wing for a ball coming in, and the line of scrimmage wing should look for a ball when the play's over, just for continuity. And then a lot of deep wings, what I've seen is a lot of deep wings are not used to how far downfield they should be. And yes, you're literally going to have to count lines a little bit for the first time. Remember, you're supposed to be a couple yards ahead of the back judge, unless it's a punt formation where you're 5 yards behind. So you can always gauge off the back judge, and back judges, please do what you're supposed to do in terms of downfield. I think it's 25 yards, and then 3 yards in front at 22 yards are the deep wings. But I see that, and they should be even. Look across, and if the other deep wing is not on the same place, one of you should be adjusting. And then when you come in after the play, come in as far as your line of scrimmage wing does. If that wing is coming into the numbers for some reason, keep coming in and come into the numbers. If they stop short, you can either stop short or come in, to the numbers, but at a 45-degree angle, so you're getting closer to players. You'll feel like you're on an island as a deep wing, and you are sometimes in terms of people around you, but you absolutely should not be in terms of activity, participation, communication, all those things. Do them just as you would as a wing official or a back judge. Talk to players. If your responsible player, holds and you would have had a foul had the play come to your side, tell them that. Tell the B player, hey, if the ball had come over here, that would have been a hole. Look for opportunities to get involved in the game. Okay. That's all I had on that. Happy to address any questions about anything, playoffs, 7 official mechanic, anything else. I did have a follow-up question from George's presentation for him, if he's still awake over there, which is when a player does an act like the bow and arrow, does it have to be directed at player on the other team or the sideline? Can you talk about UNSs that are directed at an opponent, the first down signal, etc. Things that are in the face of the opponent versus things or directed at the bench versus things that they just do out on their own?
Well, if they go do it in front of their bunch to their fans, we're probably not going to see it, and we have no need to see it. What we're worried about is taunting. So that should be the guiding line. Did he taunt the opponents? If it's something inconsequential, not in front of the opponents and directed towards their bench, it would be all right to leave it alone.
All right, thanks, George. Any questions on anything that was covered tonight in general as we get towards the end of the season in the playoffs? One other thing I wanted to add on 7 official mechanics. Referees, when you contact the school to confirm the game, if it's a 7 official crew, please let the host school know that and confirm with them that that may impact the facilities they provide to you especially if normally they put you in a classroom or something. As we all know, a lot of the facilities are barely big enough for 5 officials, let alone 7. Sometimes if they know there's going to be 7, they'll accommodate you by putting you in a different spot or giving you an option, which you want to, consider. If you do have a small room, be patient and please work with game administration on site, the host school. They got a lot going on, so don't complain. Take turns dressing if you need to, whatever you need to do to accommodate the situation. If you need to have your pregame outside the room, do it. And then also for referees, if you have a 7 official crew, please allow extra time for the pregame because it is really important to emphasize the communication between officials that has to go on during the game and really focus on that and remind everybody, and get their focus on that as part of game preparation to avoid problems during the game. Kirk, did you have something?
I wanted to throw in something that I think we've experienced, and when we added the 7-man mechanics, I think a lot of coaches, or at least we thought a lot of coaches were going to say, oh, well, there's 2 more officials that are going to throw unnecessary flags. And I think the reality of that has been debunked. We actually have a better coverage. With that said, I think what I want to emphasize, something that, again, I've been part of this for 5 or 6 years when we've used 7-man mechanics, that deep wing is another opportunity for a coach to influence. And I think it's important with our deep wings and our line of scrimmage wings to be aware that the appearance of a late flag looks like an influence flag. And so if you're on that sideline and you're deep and you have a situation where, I didn't throw on it, and all of a sudden you're having this noise behind you and you throw a flag, that looks bad. If it's not big, don't throw the flag. We always talk about make it big. When you have 7 officials and you're these 2 additional officials downfield, don't be influenced by your sideline because it looks bad. I'm not saying if it's a foul and you have no doubt it's a foul and it took a minute to process, throw the flag, but don't throw the marginal flag late and have the appearance that you're influenced by the sideline. So again, I've watched a lot of these. We're transitioning from 5 to 7, and that's one that seems to show up on occasion. So I caution you to make them big, as always. Don't change your philosophy.
Great point.
I saw a couple of chats that I can answer. One was, when will the assignments for the first weekend be out? Our self-imposed deadline to get it to you is Tuesday morning. We should be able to beat that. But we're shooting for no later than Tuesday morning. We won't know who's playing who and the location until Sunday noon at the earliest. And the schools do have an option to play on Thursday night in the first round and the second round, and on Fridays. And the home team cannot unilaterally decide that. They have to check with the visiting AD, and sometimes they don't get a hold of them on Sunday. So that will hold us up. But we will get out as much as we can, as early as we can. And then I think there was another chat on a related topic that disappeared from my view. Did anybody catch it?
Yeah, Joel just addressed it. The video recording of this should be available in about 24 hours.
Okay.
One other thing, well, two other quick things. The election for CFOA president will occur in November, probably opening in a week or so. Please vote. There will be bios for both candidates, and we'll keep the election open for a couple of weeks. But we ask you to consider carefully and vote, because the leadership and future of the organization is important to all of us. The second thing I wanted to mention is registration for fall 2025 will be opening sometime probably next week. And we always encourage people to register early, so we get, if you're coming back, come back. So you're done with it, and you can pay using your fees from this year, your game fees from this year, and so forth. There will be a badge system, so you will know that you are CHASA registered. You will know if you are both CHASA and CFOA registered. And finally, when we get to next summer and the tests are open, once you take them, you will know that you have passed, whether you've passed the mechanics and playoff test and are playoff eligible. There will be 3 badges that go with the eligibility levels. We've had officials who think they've registered with CFOA, but really haven't completed that process for one reason or another. And they kind of get lost in that crack, and we want to avoid that as much as possible. If there's any questions about registration, feel free to email me or contact your area director, and they can help with that as it comes up. Any other questions about any of this?
Nope, and I'll just say it one more time, John. I will have the 7-man mechanic PowerPoint along with the recording up on the DFOA website under the calendar section within 24 hours. It takes about a half a day for WebEx to put the video out there for me to be able to download. So I'll get it up by tomorrow at the latest. Okay.
And there was a question about the bios on the CFOA president candidates or president-elect candidates. The bios will be with the voting survey. You'll have the bios and the ability to vote through that. And Matt Miller is moving from CFOA president to past president this year. The organization owes a huge debt of gratitude to Craig Cox, who has been past president now for, I believe, 6 years, and done a great job. And then I will assume president on January 1st, and we will have a new president-elect. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Joel, for setting this up very much. And good luck to everybody in the rest of the season and the playoffs.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody. See you guys later. Bye.